Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order, superseding certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation of the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Senior Center Building Committee is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time. Via technological means, members of the public who would like to participate in the meeting via Zoom can do so by clicking on the link. And Tony, I don't know if you can put that up there so people can see that. Members of the public who would like to listen to the meeting while it's in progress may also do so via telephone by dialing 1-646-558-8656 and enter the meeting ID 894-3627-4611. Then press the pound sign, then press the pound sign again at the next voice prompt. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment. By following the steps previously noted, then press *9 on their telephone keypad or using the raise hand function on Zoom. This will notify the meeting host that the caller wishes to speak. In the event that, despite our best efforts, we are not able to provide real-time access, we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as we are able. And it appears we have mostly everybody here. Who do we have? Jack Holloway and Micah Chuck. Are they here? No?
No, they're not here.
Okay, that's the only ones missing. All right, we don't have any minutes to approve yet. So one of the things that we have to do tonight, we have a busy schedule. We have two firms coming in tonight that we will be interviewing, Hill International and Collier's International. I'm hoping everybody received their questions. Does everybody receive a copy of the 10 questions that we sent out?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So there's two of them on here that have already been spoken for. Terry Marciello has picked number 8, and myself, I picked number 3. Now, these are in no particular order. I will ask the first question to get things started. So, has everybody had the is there a question?
George, my apologies. Diane wanted to pick number 9.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to put it out there to see if anyone had a chance to read them and if they had any preference on any particular questions. So, Diane, you wanted number 9.
Number
Okay.
9, yeah.
There might be more than one question per person. So once we get through it, everyone's got the opportunity to go through. I have another follow-up question at the very end. So I'll have 2 anyways. Once we go through them, is anybody else?
I'll take the first one if you don't mind.
Okay, Teresa. Okay.
George, you can pencil me in wherever you need me.
Want to take an easy one,
Who
Greg?
is opening?
You want number 2, Greg?
Okay, I'm on it.
Same thing, George. Give me what you want.
Paul, go with number 3.
That's you. Isn't that you?
Oh, excuse me. Next one down. Number 4 for you, Paul.
You got it.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Stick with me.
I got you. All right, so we got a few more here.
5, 6, 7, and 10.
I'll take 5.
Go with 5.
Do
Greg?
6.
Who's that? Who's 6?
You want me to do 6? I'll do 6, Terry.
All right, Terry.
And George, I'll do another one, 7 if you need me.
7 is perfect. Terry, you're already doing number 8. Diane's number 9.
I'll do 10 too.
I'm going to do 10 too.
Yeah.
All right, so I would suggest, I will start off, I will take, like I said, the first one, just to lead it. And then why don't we just follow the rest kind of in order? That way there, nobody's kind of guessing where their spots are going to be. All right, so Teresa.
We'll stick with this order for both firms tonight. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And actually, why don't we stick with this order for
All the way through?
4? That
Okay.
way they're all familiar with it and we can seem like we're well organized. Does anybody have any questions so far at this point?
George, I do have one thing I wanted to say, and you can stop me right now if it's not the time. We can wait till afterwards. But I just didn't know if I could reflect in the minutes that I'm only speaking for myself, but I really hope that at some point WCTV will reconsider and broadcast one of our future meetings live. I think it's really important that the public be able to see some of this live. I know that WCTV is going to be very kind in posting these at some point. I looked today, I didn't see our last meeting up yet, but I really hope that I know I've had a few people ask me about the meetings, and I'm really hoping that A, they'll be up on this site soon, and B, we can have one of our meetings broadcasted live. So I just wanted to make that comment before we got started.
Absolutely. I'll reach out to them also. I know as we get further along, we're in the infancy part of this right now, but there's going to be some real important discussions that are going to be happening that I'm sure people are going to want to be involved.
Thank you.
At least know what's going on. Thank you for the comment. Right. So we moved along pretty quick on that one. So is everyone pretty clear on those questions?
George, is it your intent to advise the interviewees that they'll have not more than 10 minutes at the outset to just offer any opening comments, and then that to the extent time permits, that they can have any closing remarks for perhaps the final 5 minutes? I think it would be advisable to set the stage, so to speak.
Right, and I also think that we're going to need some time for our questions. I know they have been advised that they have from 6:30 to 7:45. So the first 10 minutes will be their introduction, and then they'll have time to their presentation, anything they have prepared, and then we're going to follow up with our questions. We'll be wrapping up at 7:45. That'll give us a few minutes if people need to break, and then at 8 o'clock, Colliers will be in, and we'll follow the same format. They should be wrapping up at 9:15. I'm not looking to make any recommendations or discuss any who liked who at that particular time. My plan would be to, on Monday night, we follow the same process, and then we will also pick another meeting night. So we'll discuss that at that time. Well, we do have some time here, and I'll jump ahead if people don't mind.
Sure.
On the agenda, we have an appointment for a vice chair. I know we were talking about it last week. We had to put it on the agenda, so we are following procedure. I would take any nominations for a vice chair. Now, this person is basically be filling in for myself if I'm unable to attend. And as Jeff knows, I pretty much have perfect attendance anyway, so they won't be filling in very much.
Let's keep it that way.
Do I have any nominations?
I would nominate Diane Allen. We've had no prior discussion, but Diane, if you're interested in me nominating you, I'd love to do that.
Well, thank you, Paul. Yeah, I would gladly accept it. And I would like to add one comment to it, though, just to let everybody know that at the beginning of the year, I will be away in Florida for a few months. And I'm presuming we're all going to still be doing this via Zoom. So, I might be out in a patio in warm weather or whatever, but I definitely would accept that appointment.
Diane, Paul, I'll second that, Mr. Chairman, if I can. And Diane, do we take that as an invitation? Are you inviting us to Florida?
It'd be wonderful.
I have plenty of room,
Right.
Would love to have you all come down.
A
Right.
senior center extension.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I'll put that to a vote. All in favor of Diane Allen being the vice chair of the Senior Center Building Committee? Say aye.
Aye.
You should, George, just to be clear, you should do it by roll call.
Okay, we'll do it by roll call. We'll attempt. It seemed to be unanimous anyways, but we'll start with Teresa,
I approve.
Paul,
Aye.
Terry,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes,
myself, that's a yes.
okay,
Unanimous. Thank you very much.
thank you.
And I won't be in on Monday.
Okay, we'll have a little practice run.
All right, well, we got quarter past, huh? Jeff, I guess we could have done that. We went by pretty quickly. We're pretty efficient here. We have a few minutes if maybe if somebody wants to take a break and get ready for it, but
What time are we due on? 6:30?
30.
6:30.
I'm going to go say goodnight to the girls, so please excuse me.
Oh,
Absolutely.
All right.
Excuse me too. I'll be right back.
yeah, I'm going to turn the heat off in this room.
I see Jeff and Terry are both still in their office, huh?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll
If
be back.
anybody hears those balls banging around, he must.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be back momentarily.
Just as a heads up, the first presenters are popping up in the waiting room. So 6:30, let them in, right?
Yep.
30. Okay. Yeah, just checking.
Thank you, Tony.
George, you may want to just note too that as we talked, if a question that someone poses prompts a follow-up question, within reason, you may want to allow that. Obviously, given the number of questions, you want to give everyone the same questions, but sometimes a question or a response to a question will lead to a follow-up, and we don't want to necessarily quash that just because we're under the gun.
Right, right. And there might be some conversation that has been led by the firm that would prompt a question to some of their results or something they may present that will not be typical to a question we'll provide to other firms.
Right.
Just a quick question, George. So on the protocol then, just to be clear for tonight, so when the initial questions start getting asked, can another member of this team ask a follow-up?
Yes, and for clarification, so say you asked a particular question and that everybody's pretty clear, but I might not understand it. So I could ask, could you elaborate on that, please, just for a
Okay.
second?
Thank you.
I would not veer off a topic, you know, that
Right.
way it does not lead into another question.
Right.
But if they do make a statement or something that is in their experience that you want them to elaborate on, you can also ask that.
Right. Good.
I know we were worried that we weren't going to have time. We just certainly had enough time.
It's
Yeah.
so efficient. Yeah, no, it worked out pretty good.
Knock on wood.
Terry, how is everything going at the senior center? With,
Going pretty well. It's going pretty well. Tomorrow morning, we have, actually, the fire department will be coming by, and they'll be here at 8:30 because we're doing a grab-and-go breakfast. These grab-and-goes are the big thing as to connecting with people. And then, you know, the fact that also Laura's continuing and Patty with the case management is awesome too. So difficult times though, trying to explain, you know, the current situation with everyone with the building, but
right.
one step at a time.
You get to cook in that new kitchen?
The catering kitchen, I'm telling you, I could order my own catering business after this. I've been seriously thinking of it.
So are those your seniors that I see out on the grass area?
Yes, down at the Swain.
Yes.
Obviously, there's pros and cons to that, but obviously, in the realm of things, people are determined not to be isolated. The people that can get out, they want to be, and I mean, that just shows, that's like a study in itself that shows people need to be together. But yeah, they took that upon themselves. We try to enforce, like, you know, it's really good. Please make sure you keep those masks on. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's
Well, they
really
seem to be keeping some sort of distance.
And I like how when there's little pockets, like everyone has a corner. Then the big group is in the middle. So it is kind of.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of them out there on the nice days, few and far between on the chilly days. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thursday's the most popular. Thursday and Friday. If you feel like you want to talk to someone, just swing by there and you'll see someone. Teresa, is that an oil painting behind you?
No, in fact, I was wondering how this would actually look. And I'm kind of apologize because it comes across very dark.
No.
It's some sort of acrylic type of thing.
From here, you know, on this side of the world, it looks like oil.
Oh, okay, then it is.
A Monet.
A dark Monet.
Did you paint it?
From Home Goods.
Yeah, from a home good. Good.
Yes, you took a home goods class, Paul.
My wife did too. Along with Amazon and the rest of the internet.
Yeah, just like the rest of us.
Boy, a lot of Amazon trucks around town. I know they're off of Fordham Road, but I see them everywhere now.
I think you could walk to Boston on them. There's so many of them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. My son that's all he does every day when they come to our house here. He doesn't even go shopping to brick and mortar stores. Today they delivered deodorant. He's got Amazon Prime. I guess it's cheap and it's free delivery. So
Yeah.
he's like, why would I go? I'm like, I guess you're right. Yeah.
If I don't need it today, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It's super easy.
yeah. But it is sad to see how many stores are closing up.
Yes.
It just
Yeah.
breaks my heart. It really, really does. They're not getting the foot traffic and, you know, yeah. Mm. Just, this thing is doing a number on a lot of businesses,
Yeah.
really.
I was talking to somebody up in Newburyport, and they were telling me how the business, they were hoping for a decent summer, at least on the sidewalk sales and stuff, but they didn't get them, so it was
Yeah,
closing down.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a shame when you put all your money, your life savings into it to maintain, to build that business, and then spend the money for it to, yeah,
Yeah.
fall apart.
Well, especially where it was, some of these businesses were doing so phenomenal. I mean, they're just doing wonderful. And then like a light switch, so that's the hard part.
Mhm. I
Then
think
there's
the
some, the
next
takeout
big-
businesses are doing really well, yeah.
Yeah. But the upper class restaurant business is really hurting. He keeps that limit on to 25%. It's going to be tough for any
Yeah.
of them to remain open,
Yeah.
especially with our weather that's going to be changing shortly.
Yeah, who wants to sit outside in the parking lot and have a hamburger?
Not me.
No. They are trying to do everything they can to keep it going though.
Mm.
When I came in tonight, I know, because I left for a while and then I came back, and I noticed that the staff left the bag of peanut M&Ms. I mean, I could give every single one of you like 2 bags. I cannot believe how much candy is sitting on my desk. I don't know what they thought tonight would be.
Adjourn. Head to the senior center.
Terry, you're not alone. Provision.
Terry, how many are coming tomorrow morning for the breakfast?
90.
Ooh.
We'll have them lined up the street again.
Yep, we kind of block that traffic sometimes.
What do you serve for breakfast?
Let me eat my-
So they're going to be tomorrow. That's going to be an egg sandwich, a muffin, and some fruit and coffee.
Nice.
Nice.
Do you have to be a senior?
You had to sign up. To make sure we had enough.
George, what, like a year or two for you, right?
Oh, thanks, Paul.
You were ahead of me in high school.
Yep, exactly. But 4 more years, 4 more. Yeah. But who's counting? Yeah.
Now, yesterday was the flu shot, correct, for the seniors?
Yes.
How many showed up for that?
Gosh, I think it was, we had 70 shots, but I think 50 showed. because there's been a lot of push for going to CVS, going to local pharmacy and your doctor.
Right.
But originally it was supposed to be on Monday, but that downpour, that wasn't a good thing to have. So we postponed it till yesterday. But I cannot tell you the amount of happy people that were here because that was the high dose.
Mm-hmm. That was the high dose. Now, who administers that for you?
Tracy did, Tracy Mello, town nurse.
Wonderful.
Everybody showed their arm and they were in the driver's seat. And then the passenger had to sit in the back seat. And there you go. Kind of grab and go.
Grab and go. Oh, wow.
Great.
Yeah.
Does everybody get their flu shots? I know. I got
Yeah, yeah. And I got the high dose right here, the high dose.
Diane, do you have to request that, or will they automatically give it to you if you're 65?
I requested it. But most places will, knowing your age, would suggest that you get the high dose.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But no, my husband went in and he was eligible for the high dose for the first time. And I told him to make sure he gets it. And came home and said, yeah, I got the flu shot, but not really sure which one I got. That's why you shouldn't leave home without me. But so
We're on a different situation. We're trying to get an appointment at Wilmington Pediatrics. They're only doing 1 week at a time. You have to call Friday morning. Paul, you probably know, right?
Yep.
You can't get an appointment. I called last Friday at 9:01 and they were sold out. So they said, call back next Friday. It's like,
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like the registry.
yeah.
Forget it. Forget trying to get something at the registry. You got to book 3 weeks out.
So it's 6:29. Sorry to interrupt. Do you want me to let them in right at 6:30 in a minute, or?
Yes, please.
Have you heard from Mike Kachuk or Jack Holloway?
No, I haven't. They haven't come in here. The only ones that are waiting are the 4 people from Hill.
Okay. Right at 6:30, let them in.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you.
The countdown is on.
Apologize for the dog walking around in the background. You can hear
Oh,
the
no,
clock
I
on the
can
floor, right?
I can hear it.
All right, it is 6:30. I'm going to admit all now. So here we go.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Can you hear me? My name is George Hooper. I'm the chairman of this Senior Center Building Committee. I welcome you. Welcome
Hi,
to our
George.
OPM
George.
search. Tonight, we have Hill International with us. They will take the first 10 minutes of this 6:30 to 7:45 section. They will give themselves an introduction for the first 10 minutes and then go into their presentation. And the committee has questions they'd also like to ask you as a follow-up to at the end. We have a time constraint here, so we need to keep it as close to 7:45 as we can.
Great.
All right.
Easy.
All right. So, Matt, I think you'll introduce your firm.
Thank you, George. If someone would please make me a co-host so that way I can also have access to present our presentation later.
Okay,
Absolutely.
hold on 1 second. I will take care of that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Viv.
Okay.
Thank you.
Who is going to lead in the introductions of your team?
I will.
Okay. Thank you, Peter.
So George, what we'll do here is we have an agenda that includes at the very beginning the introduction. So would it be okay if we just started with our presentation that way?
It's going to include introducing your firm to the board?
Absolutely, yeah, right at the beginning.
Okay, very good.
So all of there. So Vivian, Vivian, you have this on now?
I do. Do you guys see my screen?
I do.
Oh, this is fantastic. So George, everybody, we'll get to the introductions right away. So first, we're Hill International. And also, I originally dealt with Wendy and then Christine. Thanks for putting this all together, particularly making it easy on me because we're, you know, I'm the one who had to organize this, and believe me, I'm not the one who should be organizing the computer stuff at Hill. So I really want to thank them because I know how hard this is. We deal with cities and towns all the time through Zoom. So I'm Peter Martini with Hill. I head up the New England office. I'll be the principal in charge on the project. We're really happy to be interviewed here tonight. We'd love to be at OPM. My mom and dad used to spend time at the Winchester Senior Center, and they always said to me that you could really tell about a community of how they serve their seniors, what the culture is. So we'd really like to be part of that as you advance that in Wilmington. So the agenda tonight, which is number one, is going to be who we are and our project team. So we're going to go over that, and then it's kind of a five-point thing, and we'll go over some relevant experience. We'll go over our understanding of the project and how we're going to approach it, and then talk a little bit about community census. So, you know, we've got 15, 20 slides, and we're easily probably going to be 20, 25 minutes maybe, and feel free to interrupt as we go. And then obviously questions after we tell our story. So that's the agenda.
Very good. Peter, not to interrupt, excuse me, but we do have 10 questions. There may be some questions that come out of your slide presentations that people might want you to elaborate on or to give further information. So
yeah, that's great, and we'll do it after if that's what you'd like, or we can do it during.
Okay.
So we're ready for all the questions. We understand that we're giving you some information, and in the end, I don't think we're going to be able to tell you everything you want to hear. So there's going to be questions, and
okay, very good.
Looking forward to that. And then, so anyway, Hill, we've been around for 24 years in New England. We were originally collaborative partners, and so we've been here for 25 years. We were, about 8 years ago, Hill was looking for a New England presence. As far as they came north was New York, so they found us. And we took our name down and put the Hill name up, and they've basically left us alone. We're the same 30, 40 people that have always been here. As long as we report to them some reasonable business, we just kind of the same people up here. But they provide us great support. So Hill was founded in 1976. There are 1,000 people in the United States, so we get great support from them should we need it. And we lead in handling construction risk and project management services exclusively. So with that, we'll get to where you wanted to be a few minutes ago. Out of that, we have 37 people in our office here, so you're meeting 4 of us tonight, and you won't be meeting Vin Miller. So on today is me, Peter Martini, who heads up the office, Paul Callis, who's the project director, and he'll be involved in this project, overseeing it for Hill, and most particularly during the feasibility study. Matt Sturz is on also, so he'll do a little more introduction of himself when he comes on. He's your go-to person. He's the project manager. He's the one who's here from start to finish, and he's the person you really want to hear from this evening, besides and not me. And then Vivian Barbedian, who's a resident of Wilmington, who is a project executive for us, but also has taken on a role of some business development, but also doing a lot of community conversations and really helping us out, particularly during this COVID time, and is dealing with 4 or 5 towns right now doing communicating with the facility. So you'll hear from Vivian, and then Vin Miller, who isn't here tonight, will be the person down the road on the job site. So with that, I'll turn it over to Paul Callis, the project director, and he'll go through some of our relevant experience. Paul?
Thank you. Can folks hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. So public and civic projects are really at the heart of what we've been doing at Hill in our New England office for some time now. We have constructed way more than 80 public projects now of all different sizes and uses and so forth. And we've had the good fortune of being able to get some assignments for senior centers. And I'm just going to go through a couple of our projects here briefly. One of them is that is trying to get going right now in the town of North Andover is a new senior center. And the reason why it's having some difficulty getting going is that the property that it's on is being kind of transferred from a benefactor, local developer, who is giving the property to the town to build the senior center. The issue is that there's a tenant, and because of COVID-19, he can't be evicted. And so we're waiting for that to take place before we can break ground. But this is a rendering of the senior center that is going to be in North Andover. We're very proud to get this assignment. And one of the reasons why we got the assignment is because we did a really great job on their DPW just prior to this, and they contacted us to help them with their senior center. Next slide. The next is the senior center that we did just a few years ago in the city of Marlborough. And just like with the town of Wilmington, the Marlborough Senior Center looked at their demographics and saw that they had a need that for an expanded senior center. At the time that this was built, they had like a storefront on Main Street as their senior center. And so moving to a new facility was definitely the right approach. And what they did with this facility is they built it a little bit larger than than what their current population of seniors and users were, because they were aware that that particular population is going to grow over the next few years. Next slide. Just a couple of months ago, we finished 2 projects for the city of Malden. One, the most recent being their new city hall. And we also did their police station for them. Next slide. Next slide is for the city of Revere. We've done a large number of projects for the city of Revere. We've done 5 elementary schools. We've managed a fire station, a police station, and this latest project that we just completed in the spring was a joint project with the Department of Conservation and Recreation in the city of Revere over by Revere Beach. And the reason why they've contacted us to help them with these projects is because we get them all done on time, under budget, and we've had an exemplary track record with that over the last 20 years or so. This project that's being shown right now, the Tufts Library, this is one in which we just had the ribbon cutting a couple of weeks ago, and like a senior center, a library is a lot like a community center and has an awful lot of the same uses of gatherings of people, doing like-minded things, and with their, in this case, of the library, it's got an area for over 55, and at the same time, it's got a children's section and a teen section. The town of Weymouth is very happy with this project, and one of the strategies that we use to make sure that our clients are very happy on the projects that we manage for them is being able to set the requirements and expectations that the design team and the construction team needs to be able to meet when the project is complete. So if we were fortunate enough to get this project, one of the things we would recommend doing is being able to facilitate a session in which we create a project charter, which spells out what is the vision of your committee, and being able to use that document in order to, when we put out an RFP for the architect and let everybody know is this is what we're doing here. This is what we want. And we need you as the designer to be able to meet or exceed these expectations that are set forth in this charter. And we do this on practically all of our projects, and we would highly recommend it. It's a hallmark of what we do. I'm not sure if any other project management firms do it. If they do, they probably copied us. And so with that, I would like to turn it over to Matt.
Thanks, Paul. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Excellent. So just as by way of a quick bio about myself, I'm Matt Sturz, a project manager for Hill International. And actually, OPM work is a career change for me. I am a licensed landscape architect in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And one of the things that really drew me to this project was that site selection and site analysis is going to be a big component of the project. And as such, should we be fortunate enough to be selected for it, I would be looking forward to having the opportunity to dig in and contribute to that effort in terms of getting the project off the ground. But I'd be looking forward to leaning on my background as a landscape architect for that to that effort. I'd like to start here with a couple of slides to review our understanding of the project, what we've learned in looking at it so far, and feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions about anything as I'm going over it. So as documented in the RFP, there's a clear and a significant need for an expanded senior center to adequately serve the large and growing population of 65 and over residents in Wilmington. And we understand that there really are options when it comes to how such a facility would be sited. The slide that's up now is showing town-owned parcels, some of which are conservation land, but the point is that there are numerous options that could be selected to house such a facility, and determining which one of those is the optimal location is a key decision, possibly the most important decision to get right on the project. So we really want to take a close look at that. Thank you for moving to the next slide. There are 4 sites that we understand are sort of front runners, if you will, leading candidates that were proposed in the RFP. And for our edification, they're labeled on this slide as sites 1 through 4. We have the existing Buzzell Senior Center site. There's the Town Hall site, the 345 Middlesex Avenue parcel, and the Parish of the Transfiguration site. And so importantly, those may not be the only sites, but we want to do our due diligence in identifying any other ones, and at that point also identifying any that may not be able to accommodate the program. The first site here is the existing Buzzell Senior Center site, and there's a lot of potential on this site, and that is to some degree also some possible abatement challenges, we understand. But there's a real opportunity to increase the presence and the visibility of the building on this site along Middlesex Avenue, and to, we would hope, or to possibly bring more activity to the front of the site to enliven the quad space, the green space out front between this site and the high school. We'd look to bring more activity to that. We know that this site is the existing senior center site, and when I made a field trip out to look at some of the different sites today, there was a lot of activity out there. So this site is already well used and suitable to that purpose. The next site is the Town Hall site, and This site at 19 acres is substantial, and there's a potential symbiotic relationship that could be made between this site and a senior center should siting it there be determined to be simpatico. There is a fair amount of traffic that I observed going through here. The use of and the siting of another building on this site would have to be studied, I think, in more depth. And also with such a high value, prominent civic building, the discussion would want to be had about whether this was sort of front and center enough and a prominent enough location. And we would want to review that as part of the site analysis. Another site that we understand is being considered is the 345 Middlesex Avenue parcel. And this that we're looking at may indeed be a older aerial, because when I went by to take a look at this site, that building that Vivian's cursor is on right there doesn't appear to be there. This site actually is more wide open than this picture would maybe lead one to believe. And it's a good prominent location along Route 62. And there's a lot of opportunity on this site as well. And we would be interested in having the discussion about how central this location is considered. But we think that this site could accommodate a fair amount of program, and we would want to review with the design team whether that would involve, I think Vivian's cursor is highlighting the green space there, whether this could even be able to be built without impacting the soccer field that's adjacent to it.
I'm sending subliminal messages to everybody. That's where it should be.
Thanks, Vivian. And the other site that we understand is a front runner is the site at the Parish of the Transfiguration. And so in looking at this site, it does appear that this site is reasonably level, and that there's a good adjacency with the parish there. There's an opportunity, I think, here to possibly mitigate the impact of further development at this site if something could be organized where there's a shared parking agreement of some type with the parish. I went earlier today to look at this site, and there were 3 cars in the parking lot, and I was one of them. At a time that I would think that a senior center or an elderly services center would be fairly active. And so I think there's a chance to really maximize the use of this site and possibly not have as heavy a footprint. Now, one thing about this site is that we understand that it's just between where that pin drop is shown and Glen Road, and there may be some additional cost to developing it just because it's a woodland that has no existing infrastructure. But it certainly could be a viable option, I would think. What we have here, what we're showing is the first of a couple of slides that talk about our management approach. And this is a conceptual schedule. The first and most important jumping off point here would be the designer selection process. Should we be awarded the project, we'd be looking to dive pretty much right into that. And some of the remaining phases of the project which follow that are represented here, but that those would have to be, I think, integrated with what the town's internal schedule looks like. There's a vote for appropriation on there, which is, perhaps not accurate. We aren't sure, but we represent it there just to talk about that as something that would follow down the line. The budget sheet here, it's a spreadsheet. I'll move past this fairly quickly, I promise. But we, as part of managing the project, we track every dollar on it, including the contingency funds and any changes that happen along the way. But we use this as a pretty robust tool just to track where all the money is going on the project and to provide a snapshot of costs at any given time. One of the things that we do, we expect to do, is to report on the project monthly or at an interval of your choosing. And one of the sort of items that form the basis of that report is what we call a dashboard. And this slide is showing an example of one and what the contents of that typically include. Milestones, accomplishments in the last month during construction, photos of the progress, how we're doing relative to the estimated budget, etc. The risk register plugs into that dashboard, and you don't need to read this, but it is a tool for evaluating risks, issues that come up on the project, and some of those things that are shown in green on the bottom might be opportunities that we may have identified throughout the project to economize, either in terms of cost or possibly schedule. And then this here represents another piece that plugs into that project dashboard. These are pieces of a change order log, which are showing changes along the way. Every construction project, things do come up, and what we want to do is track the changes and to keep as we're tracking those, make sure that we communicate about that and resolve these as a team. When we feel that construction is at its best when it's team sport, and we look for ways to have mutual resolution and mitigate any impact to the project that these might pose.
Hey, Vivian, before you move on, I know none of you guys wanted to have this picture in there. This is not going to be your building, but that's an actual job we are on right now that we're really proud of. MIT has joined with the Transportation Commission to building a new Volpe Center in Cambridge. So on one day, we had 300 concrete trucks overseeing this quality of it. 300 concrete trucks pouring a 7-foot thick mat. And those people down there are people in the yellow coats. So I just love this picture. We're in charge of we're just in charge of quality control on that particular project. So thanks for letting me have the photo in there.
Of course.
Yeah. So with that, I want to turn it over to Vivian to talk about the community outreach and engagement process.
All right. I am beyond excited to be here tonight, and I'll tell you why. I know that Matt and Paul went over all of the ways that we are going to make this project successful and all the technical ways that we manage the project. But really, in essence, this project is all about the community. I know this because I am your community. I was very fortunate enough with my husband and family about over a year ago to call Wilmington my home. And not just my home, my forever home and my forever town. So the demographic that you are going to be servicing in the future will be me, but more probably before me will be my husband. And with the senior center, it is a wonderful opportunity to engage the community. I know that Wilmington has had many projects and large projects like the high school project. I think, what was it, in 2015 with Doran Whittier, which we work with constantly, as well as other architectural firms and the public safety building, both of which are phenomenal. And the senior center I like to call it senior center over elderly, but the senior center is one that is another great large project. And I know that there's been a lot of conversations in town as far as which should go first, the senior center or, you know, kind of redoing some of our elementary schools. I hear it. I'm even part of the conversations at times and understand it. I want to make this project successful, not for my own personal gain out of this and the use of the building, but Wilmington is a town that I have been eyeing for years. And I have just now fortunately been able to purchase a home here. I live right down the street on Marion Street. I bought a home from a prominent, you know, real estate agent here, Jennifer Langone, who I am fortunate enough to call a friend, as well as her father being the builder for my home. So we had many back and forth conversations on what I wanted in the house. And I understand that putting together a marketing plan, and I call it a marketing plan because it truly is a marketing plan. It's not just communicating to and outreaching with the seniors and with the general population of Wilmington. You really have to come together, put together a plan that will present this project in the best light possible. There are so many ways to communicate nowadays, especially with COVID. Here we are, where this meeting would have normally been in person. We have an opportunity to do it virtually, which is a good thing because I'm feeling a little under the weather and I would never want to spread this to anyone. But we have social media, we have websites, but knowing that this is a senior center and not all of the seniors engage in the internet, we understand that as well and know that we have opportunities here to go to farmers markets or to do mailers and postcards. I know in one of the adjacent neighborhoods and towns that I am working on in a project, what we have kind of creatively come up with an idea is doing driveway conversations, gathering a few of the neighbors that want to hear about the project, that have questions about the project, where we can all still maintain socially distance and, you know, distance from each other, but be able to have conversations in person and communicate and express what are their concerns, learn from them, and be able to not only answer questions, but also learn from them. We have found that our best ideas always come from the community. And that's not just a slogan that we kind of say, it's honest truth. Because let's not forget, a senior center is for the community, and we're going to be building this for the community. So it is vital that we not only get their input, but we also make sure that we are building the right building for them. The technical aspects of it, I have no doubt we can manage the project wonderfully. We have a track record of doing so. We have worked in many neighboring municipalities as well as all across, you know, the state of Massachusetts. But what others don't have that we definitely have is the fact that we are wonderful communicators as well as facilitators. We have no ego. There is no ego among our team, and there is no ego when we work with our community and our stakeholders. We want to engage the community. Our job is to listen, to take back what they have given us as part of their input, to plan, to present, and then feed it back to them to make sure that, did we understand you correctly? Did we hear you properly? Is this what you want out of your center? And build accordingly. As long as we have consensus, we achieve that consensus with the community, and not only with the community, with you as the stakeholders, I know that this project will be a success. There's no way that it won't, because I live here and I'm going to go there. I know by just, you know, pre-COVID, I had stumbled upon all of the buildings and taken a tour of Wilmington. I have actually met Mr. Hall in person and had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Brand at one of the school committee meetings. I also have wanted, I've emailed, I shouldn't tell you guys this, but I've emailed Valerie Gingrich, who is the director of the planning and conservation in town, that I wanted to be part of the economic development committee, because I love the fact that you guys did that survey. I'm all for it. And I know that in town, the police department communicates via Facebook, because I turn my light on at 9 o'clock every night with their reminder. I know that you guys use social media, as well as, you know, the Wilmington cable TV channels. And we can use all of those in communicating about this project, regardless of physical distancing, and make sure that it is successful. We pay attention to all the little things, and we pay attention to the details. That's our job, not yours. And I promise you, we will deliver.
So with that, we've gone through, told you what we do, how we understand this. In our letter, cover letter, we told you that we pledged some stuff. And I think the number one thing is that we like every day to kind of wake up and say, how can we help the project? So you heard a lot about how we're going to help and how you guys we're looking out for your interest, and thanks a lot. And we're here to answer any questions you have.
Okay, thank you, Pete. Like I said, we do have a series of questions, and committee members are going to ask. I'm going to lead off with it, and Vivian, this takes off from where you were.
Sure.
Welcome to Wilmington. Thank you for being a part of Wilmington. I grew up here, so
I love it here
for quite some time, as many of these members also. I know you kind of went there, started talking about the public outreach. I mean, that's a big thing.
It is.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on, your experience, the firm's experience on it, how you're going to get the support of the residents out there? I know that was pretty good what you had, but communication's key, also interdepartmental, and with your help, how are you going to garner support for this project?
I think some examples would be great.
I will be more than happy. I'm going to flip back to this side. I put this slide deck together, but this one is by far my very favorite slide. And if you can't tell, it's the one I put together. So the reason why I have all of these there is because communities communicate very differently. Every community communicates differently. Some towns, for example, I'm currently working in Watertown. Watertown has a larger community that has both very young families and school-aged kids, as well as a senior population. Granted, Watertown as a whole is not very computer savvy or very internet savvy. And for that, we communicate in two different ways. Even though to keep our projects going, we do utilize Zoom for all of our meetings, but we also have found that doing actual flyers and mailers and postcards has worked well too. Granted, in the era of COVID, I feel like this is my new norm, but before COVID, we held many public community outreach programs. So we definitely always had a lot of the cable access channels videotaping it. We also did is link up with Facebook Live and the town's website, and creating a town-wide Facebook page and linking with all of those and doing a Facebook feed of live meetings, that if they don't want to watch it on their cable access channel, if they're not home, for example, they can just, use their phone, their smartphone, and watch it on a social media platform. As well as, YouTube has the same capabilities. Why not take advantage of all of the social platforms that you have in order to communicate? But also understanding that some of the community members don't necessarily have internet readily available, or even if they do, they don't know how to get onto Facebook. I know that my parents, I had to kind of repeatedly teach them, this is the button you press to get onto Facebook so that they can see their grandchildren, pictures and all of the things that I post for them to see. That we, in the town of Swampscott, for example, we had that same exact scenario. And during COVID, I'm currently working on a project there to try to get the feasibility phase where, Wilmington will be entering. We held many different options. We've been doing it all through COVID. So utilizing the physical distancing and holding kind of farmers markets sessions where I, along with one of the committee members, would go and answer questions and have a poster that we could help create with the architectural firm that we bring on board very quickly to kind of give an idea of like, what is the project? Where are the suitable sites? Why are we thinking about this project and why it is so important to the community? Having a flyer and as well for them to take home, as well as a large banner that is eye-catching, is at the farmers market is predominantly where they would go, as well as at the library. Maintaining the physical distance right now is a concern, so we held a lot of driveway conversations, is what I like to call them, where, if you start connecting with one of the residents, and you guys can help with this because you've lived here, you know who the residents are that are vocal and prominent in the neighborhood that can help be more of, facilitators for the community to get the message out. They have, we can help them get the conversation started.
All right. Thank you very much. That was informative. I will say, a lot of our seniors are tech savvy.
I know this. I live across a woman. Her name is Linda. She is definitely your demographic. She has lost her husband, has grown kids, and she is more active than I am. She walks the neighborhood 3 times a day, every day, rain or shine.
Okay, very good. Our next question will be Teresa.
As an OPM, which criteria do you feel are the most important in the selection of an OPM for our project?
Well, the criteria that you have in your RFP was pretty clear, and I think it's a combination, but I believe it's communication. How the OPM, there's budgets, there's schedules, there's the feasibility studies, there's the construction phase, and all the things we do with schedule and budget and quality. But it's how we're going to interact and communicate. And that's with the town, it's with the committee, it's with the architect. It's frankly with all of the architects that are in the RFP, because the architectural community is going to get a really good feel for the town of Wilmington on how they communicate their search for an architect. So it's not just the one who wins the job that gets a feel for Wilmington. So I think that's really what it is, and that also the criteria of a OPM to obviously be first looking after our client, in this case Wilmington's interests, number one, but we've got to get the job done, and we have to be a facilitator and a communicator as much as we are pointing the finger and demanding things. So I think that's probably the biggest criteria I see.
Thank you.
Am I up next, Mr. Chairman? I think so. All right, hopefully you can hear me okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here, first of all. Really appreciate it. Obviously very impressed by your team and your presentation, and we welcome you all here. And I want a special welcome to Vivian, our fellow Wilmington resident. Just by quickly, my name is Greg Bendel, and I serve on the Wilmington Board of Selectmen. I'm the designee that has the good fortune of serving with my colleagues here. The question I have is, I know you talked about having a 37 team. I've been very impressed by the first 4 that I've met. But perhaps you could tell us who will be the one who will communicate with this committee the most, and who will be the one that we see on site most. So maybe I could ask Vivian to turn back a few slides. You had a really good slide that almost gave a timeline of who was going to be seen where. And I think Vincent at one point I thought might be here towards the end. I would be interested in seeing that slide again. If I
Right,
could.
so Matt Sturz is the go-to person, start to finish on the project. He's our project manager. He's your project manager. Paul is going to be involved throughout the entire project. And the reason that we moved his arrow back a little bit at the end, because that's really kind of the end and close out and punch list and warranty phase. And Matt's going to continue on with that. And I would suspect at that point, Paul will still return your calls, but we decided to make the arrow look a little shorter. And Paul's going to be very, very involved with the feasibility up front. So that's really the timeline. Now Vin right now is working on a project, and he's gonna, when we get awarded this, if we're awarded this project, Vin's part of the team. So as we go forward on the project, he's gonna know what's going on, but his main role is gonna be starting when the construction documents, so he gets to know every inch of those plans and specifications.
But let's not forget, I'm going to be there throughout this whole process. I will be the primary person that communicates to the community as well as with the stakeholders, meaning whoever, if it's this group that is in charge of this project, I will also be communicating with you in order to make sure that all of the messaging, what we are conveying to the community, is in sync with one another.
Great.
Yeah, it's interesting in this case in that Vivian has a position in our company that just does a lot of things, and in this particular job, she has a specific role and duty on this project, and that's what it is.
I wear many hats, and I am not afraid to.
Not on this job.
Yes, but on this project, know that I will always have my eye on it since it's literally in my backyard.
Great. Thank you so much. And I just want to add briefly that I was also pleased to see that you'll be providing a monthly report, which includes what I think you showed was a dashboard, which I thought was very informative, and could see that being very informative to not only town officials, but to residents as well as we move forward.
Absolutely.
I just want to say one other
It can
thing.
go up on the web.
I just want to say one other thing about our team. You know, I don't go away. I mean, my background is the construction business. I live in Arlington. I'm on the Arlington Permanent Town Building Committee. I love construction sites, and so I'm going to be around. I'll be handling any contractual stuff, any oversight that has to happen that gets beyond Paul Callis.
And
There's not much of that, though, fortunately.
Greg, just to answer your question also, that we use this dashboard on so many different levels. We not only use it to communicate with you on a monthly basis as far as the status of the project, but we also generally do create a project website that we could tie into the town website if you'd like, or make it a link. And where we post this so that everybody in town, it's a public project, they all are entitled to the information, but this gives a great snapshot of exactly where we are on a month-to-month basis.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Paul, you're up. Paul Malroney. Next.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Wilmington, and congratulations on a great submission to our RFQ. My name is Paul Malroney. I'm celebrating my 25th year on the Permanent Building Committee in Wilmington. I've been part of the master planning update. I've been part of the facilities master plan, a new middle school, a new police and fire station, and a new high school in town. That's my background on this committee. So I've been through this a couple of times. Can you guys tell us why your firm is best suited to serve as the OPM for the town of Wilmington? First part of the question. Second part of the question is, describe what experience your firm can provide the town moving into the next phase of this project.
Paul, you want to get that?
Sure. Well, we're the company that started this whole industry of project management. long time ago. And, you know, it's founded on the fact that we are designers, we're not builders, we're project managers. This is what we do. We don't have any vested interest other than serving you. We are your very highly trained, highly experienced, you know, person that's not on your committee, but everywhere involved with your committee in order to make sure that everything is done on time, on budget. And we've done it dozens, countless times thus far. And it's that putting our clients, our municipal clients, absolutely on top. You know, as far as that term owner's project manager, we take that phrase owner as project manager. We're your project, we're your guy to make sure that that the project gets done, run properly, run well. And we have been through feasibility, started prior to feasibility study on projects and initial project planning, which is kind of like where you seem to be right now. And other times we've been brought in long after the fact because there is some problem on a project. But when we have this opportunity of being able to start from the ground up, it's especially good because we could draw on all of that experience that we've had from going through the process, you know, so many times before, in order to be able to bring that wisdom and that expertise to your project. And you know, because of that, I feel as though we're the best choice that you could have to manage this project.
Yeah, I agree, Paul. Moving forward from the feasibility study is a really exciting time, and to get, you know, jumping on to the next phase. And there's no real disenfranchisement in our company. It's all the same people who are going to be doing the work.
And we stick with our clients from the beginning through the end, and after the end, and after the end is ended. Being able to provide expertise for whatever reason. We had you know, like Everett High School, which we managed the construction of 15 years ago, 10 years after the fact. They needed to find some bit of information in the project record. You know, we found it, we got it for them. And we do that for everybody. That's part of what we do.
Also, if I may add, Paul, is that in assembling this team, we really thought about who is the right person for this job. And one of the reasons why we have Matt Sturz as well as Paul and myself on the project is that Matt Sturz has a landscape architect background. You know, that is going to be vital during the feasibility phase as you're looking at the various sites. I mean, let's be honest, Wilmington is very fortunate that it is not in any way in need of land. There's an abundance of land, but not all of the properties and the parcels here in town are identical or can be best suited for a project of this type. So having a registered landscape architect on our team as one of the project managers, we felt was best suited, especially in the feasibility phase. Similarly to Peter, I have a construction background. I used to work for a large construction company in town, Walsh Brothers, and have worked on multiple large-scale projects as well as some smaller ones. And where Paul's expertise comes into play is that he has over 20 years of municipal public projects completed. And anytime that it comes to question in regards to, you know, public procurement or even what a senior center, he's on the team for the North Andover Senior Center. I know that this team will be able to not only handle any unexpectancies, but also serve the community the best.
Great, thank you very much. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Next question, Teresa.
Yes, would you please describe some of the more common and some of the more serious mistakes that occur in the planning process? Procedures or approach that your firm has in place to eliminate these issues?
Paul. I know you're eager to
Okay, I'll take it.
I think, Paul, I think some examples would be great of things that you have seen that haven't gone as planned.
Well, I feel as though the best projects that we've had are the ones where we have started at the beginning and we, get with the building committee, with members of the community, anybody that's got standing or interest in the project, and start right off of the bat with a clean piece of paper. What is the vision? What is it that you would like to do with this? What do you want this project to be? What's going to make this project great? And getting all of that information and being able to take that and create a charter for the project with that, with which we, go to the architect when during the selection, this is what the vision is, this is what you need to do. And we create that roadmap for the project and stick to it through start to finish of the project. We find that technique has been just extremely successful. And so starting off with that is real important. When you facilitate a session like that, you are able to get out on the table what people think, that are in the community as far as what is going to make this project great or what's not going to make it great, or, you kind of find out what, if there's any, what agendas that may be there, like when you're selecting a site, for instance. And it's just extremely useful, and being able to put that together and get behind it is invaluable. So in the planning process, that I would say starting out with that is a real key.
Yeah, I think also we've seen some jobs like something that happened recently with a city in town with us was kind of a hiccup, was during the process. It could happen here. During the process, the use of the building was expanding. So more people wanted to use it. More people kind of had what they wanted to have in it. Different groups in the community wanted a place in the building, and it needed some stronger leadership in the town, but also it needed a better charter. This town we were with had a little bit of a kickback on a charter. Charters hold people accountable. As you get further on with the project, the answers to the questions, you can just go to the charter. And we're not saying this is an absolute, but we have had issues where we don't have something to go back to, or it wasn't written out properly, and the job starts to expand. And the big issue is money. So that's some of the stuff we see, Tess.
Thank you.
You all set, Teresa? Thank you.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
All right, our next question will come from our Senior Center Director, Terry Marciello.
Hi, very nice speaking to you all, seeing this, listening to everything that you're sharing. And at this time, kind of to follow the previous question, describe the reasons for change orders and how your firm will work to limit these change orders.
Yeah, so Matt, you're going to be the guy. So
Yep. I was hoping that you'd give me the opportunity to jump in on this one. The common change orders, there's a saying attributed to Benjamin Franklin, but he said, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And it starts for us with QA/QC review of the documents that you're putting out to bid. And items that are identified as we're showing here in the risk register. Commonly, we see change orders occur where trade scope intersects with other trade scopes. For instance, if somebody's putting pathway lights in, just as a specific example, in the wintertime when it gets dark at 4:30, that starts to seem like a really good idea, but maybe somebody on the electrical side of things didn't get the memo and run power to them. We're looking for things like that. But even before that, it starts with, I think, setting expectations and making sure that we have the conversations both with you and with the design team to confirm that everything that everybody thinks is in the scope is indeed in the scope. We review drawings, we review specifications. Paul is a registered architect. I know he looks over these things with a fine-tooth comb. You know, as we're you know, getting the documents ready to go out for bid, I know Vin is also going to put another set of eyes on things and identify any issues that he sees. It's going to start with setting expectations to confirm that everything that we think we own, we do according to the contract documents, and following through with that to make sure that stuff gets into the documents. As Pete alluded to, holding people accountable for the scope and the expectation.
Thank you.
Okay. Greg Bendel, you're up next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My next question is, if you folks could please describe to us a difficult situation you had on a project, how you resolved it, and maybe walk us through that, please.
Can I take this one, please?
Yeah, go ahead. We've all had them. So yeah, go ahead, Viv.
Yep.
Yeah. We've all had those moments, and all of us as project managers at one capacity or another have experienced it. I'm currently experiencing one with the town of Swampscott. I'm working on in their feasibility study. And one of the difficulties that we are finding is building consensus, not among just the community at large, but among the school building committee. And we have multiple options, similarly to Wilmington, where they have multiple options of where they can place this elementary school, as well as multiple options on which district-wide, if they want to do a small school feel, a district-wide school, and kind of combinations in between. We started off with 9 potential options and variations to this, have slowly started to dwindle it down. And that is one community where they have a very, very vocal community input, where we have done more than any other community outreach. For every school building committee meeting we hold a similar community meeting in order to make sure we have all of the consensus. And it is one that we have to take the problem, you know, kind of like break it down from a large problem to smaller bite-sized problems and handle it one at a time in order so that you could see the trees through the forest and just, you know, build it up that way. And where we find that, at least for me, what has been helpful is understanding what is the overall goal for the project, and then figuring out ways of creatively breaking the project down into smaller portions so that everybody can understand and everybody can make wise decisions, informed decisions every step of the way.
You know, Viv, you know, when you showed that, I can't remember whether it was Paul or Matt showed the risk register. So we try to alleviate as many problems as we can by looking at the risk register. If there's an issue on the job, Paul, Kals, and I will look at it and say, well, what does the contract say? So the contract with the architect,
I think we lost him.
Your contract with us, we have to make sure that we're handling all these things, so that we can point to the contract. But you know, we're supposed to be the worldwide leader in risk analysis, and we did a risk analysis in January for a town, and I helped on it, and it did not have in it worldwide pandemic. And we, you know, I was like, shoot, I wish we had thought of that. Come April, we would have looked really good. But that's a big issue we've been dealing with, you know, and you guys have too. You know, we can tell. We're going to start our stories 5 years ago with answering that question with, well, back in 2020, we had some issues, you know.
Thank you, Vivian. Thank you, Peter.
Geez, Peter, what a great segue into our next
Segue.
question.
And you didn't even know it.
Go ahead, Terry.
We're already part of the team.
So obviously, you know, being the director here at the Senior Center, in the current pandemic, we really had to review our indoor space and our outdoor space. As you know, and Peter just bringing that up. And we were wondering, how would you incorporate these considerations in design and function to our building to ensure the ability to use the space, which including the indoor and the outdoor space?
That is going to be you guys are ahead of the game already, just asking the question. You know, the designer and us and you have got to get together from day one and discuss this. Right now, they're already designing into buildings, different filter systems with HVAC, different kinds of operational windows, making spaces a little more flexible so that they can be separated and then opened up. Different materials. There's so many cool things and ideas. You know, it's kind of like after we went to the moon, we had all these little neat industries that came out of it. The same thing's going to happen with COVID. So I'm sure Paul and Matt can talk about some more of the architectural things. But that's
there's one that we're implementing on an elementary school project in Orange, Mass, which is it has a displacement air system that has the fresh air and conditioned air come through near the floor of the room, and then it exhausts out through the ceiling. So it basically takes whatever is out there, a COVID molecule or a piece of dust, and extracts it and takes it in the direction that it needs to go, which is out. When that conditioned air gets to the air handling unit, it utilizes an ultraviolet light in order to be able to help to sanitize that air that goes through. And that, in combination with a MERV 14 filter, is basically almost to something that they have in hospitals and everything that's used in regular municipal buildings. And the ultraviolet light, it is a treatment that has been out there for years and years. Many water treatment plants, the water that you may drink from a water treatment plant has passed by an ultraviolet light in order to disinfect it, to make it potable. It's not something that's absolutely brand new, but now it's being implemented to this new application in order to be able to bring fresh air into the building.
Can I just ask extend that a little bit more as to due to the fact that COVID and our current situation, was that, you know, the I think it was orange that you're speaking of, did you have to add that additional after you realized what's happening, or was that?
Yes, we had to add the ultraviolet light part of it. The displacement air system is a very efficient HVAC system. Oh, and the upgrade of the filter as well. Those are a result of COVID. And when you improve the filter, how well the filter works, it takes a little bit more horsepower for the fan and everything to blow it through the filter. So it definitely is adding a little bit of money into the system, but the system in general is, you know, there isn't, it's not a big departure from what was originally planned.
Paul, could I add, just wanted to, I know the HVAC is very critical and part of this, but also breaking out sections of the building for occupancy to how people will travel from one section to another, open areas, isolation spots. Do you foresee the structures changing also?
When you build a building, you're building space for people to occupy in. What's going to be very important is to be able to do this in a way that there's flexibility in order to be able to possibly segregate zones later on. or have them, you know, open, you know, post-COVID, as you would. You know, movable partitions, but having the space is the first thing that you need to have. Right now with the social distancing and everything, having more space is definitely better than having less space.
These are some of the items that we do face when we are working on public school projects as well. Similarly, some of the municipalities, the schools are of aging buildings. And so currently they've had to bring in temporary classrooms to suffice because they don't have the ventilation system. But some of the schools, municipalities that we are working in, for example, the Orange project that Paul mentioned, as well as Watertown, we have had to create different and implement different filtration as well as, you know, HVAC systems, but also increasing a little bit of the footprint of the facility in order to give a more flexibility and more space, as well as sometimes the nursing station. I know this might not necessarily have to do with the senior center, but the nursing stations have to be in a way where we can isolate the individuals. So this is something that it's relevant now, and a lot of municipalities are having to try to deal with it. And it is in the forefront of the conversations with the architectural and engineering firms too.
Good. Terry, you all set with that?
Yep, thank you very much.
Yeah. All right, the next is Diane Allen.
Good evening. My name is Diane Allen, and I'm a member of the Permanent Building Committee. I've lived in Wilmington for well over 53 years, and my children have gone through this school system. I love this town, and I was also a part of the master facility plan, which was really an eye-opener. My question is, as you stated in your presentation, one of the most important decisions that's going to need to be made is for the site selection for the senior center. How are you going to evaluate the site selection criteria and help us reach a consensus as to the best location? I believe in the RFQ, it gave the 4 sites, but it did say that it was not extensively limited to those 4 sites.
I can take the lead on this one. One of the things that we would be looking at, and you know, maybe the first criterion that we could use is we want the location to be as sort of front of house, as prominent, as visible as you feel it should be. This is a project for your community, and we want it to be to feel as if it's in sort of the right spot. And you know, Vivian's efforts leading the community engagement can help inform what that ought to be. In terms of the actual site criteria, one of the things that I was looking at as I took my field trip earlier today is, you know, with an elderly services center, accessibility becomes a key attribute to these sites. So the first thing that I wanted to see is, are these sites flat? If they're relatively level, that can help reduce the cost to develop them. It can, some sites may lend themselves more easily than others to being developed in such a way. And also, in general, what is the shape of the site? The Parish of the Transfiguration site in particular looks to be somewhat of a trapezoid. And you know, with a site like that, a question would be for the design team: are we able to locate, for instance, handicap accessible parking spaces within the appropriate range of the doors? So that's a key one, I would think, is how accessible and how central is the location of the site. And looking at the slide that we showed previous to this one, there are numerous options, and there may be alternatives beyond these four that meet one or several of these criteria. And we would certainly want to do our due diligence in digging into that a little bit more and gathering more data to help put forward any viable options that we could foresee doing so. And I think we could also gather the input of the design team in that process, just because they may be able to intuit something that they have seen or that they have done, and borrow from their experience as well.
Mm-hmm. As a follow-up to that, how would you prioritize, in addition to that part of the criteria that you spoke about, what about utilities and as well as environmental issues? Where does that play a role in this site selection?
Some of these sites may have greater site development costs than others, depending on whether there are existing utilities that can be tapped into, for instance, off of, say, Glen Road, for instance, whether we need to add those to the site and add the infrastructure to support a building. And also, I think that it would be important to have, for instance, a surveyor determine whether there are or are not wetlands present on some of these sites, because that can add significantly to the permitting challenge. And looking again at the site here on for site 4, we see that it's wooded, and we would anticipate, for instance, that there might be higher development cost and possibly environmental regulations that would need to be complied with by cutting down trees. That's one of the things that I think is a strong attribute in favor of Site 1, the existing Buzzell Community Center site, is that it would seem that you're not cutting down any trees more than you would then have already been cut down on that site. It's already an open site, relatively open site, whereas a site such as the one that we're looking at here at Site 4 doesn't have any existing infrastructure and does have a lot of trees that might need to be removed or replaced elsewhere, depending on how strict your tree wardens may be.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Diane, I'm going to jump in here because we are near the end of our time, but I think that last question that you have here is a good one. So just to let you know, we are at 7:45. So if you could, maybe we can get right to that.
Sure. Okay. So once chosen, the OPM will assist in hiring a firm for the study and the schematic design, which obviously will be the architect. What experience or criteria should we be looking for in that architect to perform those duties?
Can I take that? Thank you. It is selection of the architect is one of the most critical aspects of the project, is getting the right designer and being able to select a designer for a senior center. One is going to want to have a designer that has done senior centers, has experience having done them before. Senior center spaces are usually, attractive, large, attractive, comfortable buildings, but they have a couple of little quirks about them that are very important. Like, for instance, front doors of senior centers, you want to have You want the doors in senior centers to be 3 foot 6 inches wide, not 3 feet like everywhere else, because of it's just easier to get around and more accessible. That's the type of information that a designer that has done senior centers is well aware of. You want to be able to have set the criteria. You want style and appearance of the building is very important. And I think that it's an important thing that many building committees don't often ask their in the selection process to and use as a criteria is how do their buildings look? I mean, there is in some ways and fashion, some people want something that's very modern looking, looks like a a spaceship. Certainly whoever did the town hall a long time ago probably had that idea, but and others want something that's more familiar, something that's more comforting. So setting that criteria again, if we're selected, we'll put together that facilitation, get that charter, get that in the RFP so that they know that, what the vision is, what you're thinking of, what it is that you're looking for, and we will facilitate that. A senior center is definitely a source of pride for any kind of community. And, public spaces such as senior centers, libraries, schools, and everything, they're very powerful things. They're really useful for the people that use them, but then other folks that are in the town derive that comfort and that power from knowing that that facility actually exists here. And I think that it's it's one of the reasons why why we like doing public buildings is that is being able to build something that becomes a source of pride for a town. And being able to get that vision, get it in the process of the designer selection is I think is really important. The other part about that is when you look at sites and there may be a building committee meeting where you kind of look at what sites are out there and which ones seem to be ones that are real viable and some that maybe aren't so good. If you have the architect look at every publicly owned piece of land in Wilmington, and that slide that shows all the yellow on it shows that there's quite a few of them, it's going to be really expensive. So being able to pare that down to the ones that are the real contenders will definitely be something that'll help in being able to keep the designer's fee down a little bit.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paul. Well, we did have, I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. We did have a great response to our RFQ, and we've been able to isolate it down to a few chosen firms, which you're part of. Is there anything that you might want to throw out to us that we have not discussed? Anything you feel that's important that we did not touch upon?
I got one item before Peter says winds it up, and that is please call our references. Please call the folks that have worked with us in the past and learn about how we've helped them in being able to build their projects. Calling our references is, would be very much appreciated.
No, George, I would just say that, we've got to focus on the budget. And when one of the criteria for the architect is talk to the people they've worked with. Do they stick to the budget? Are they understandable on what they can have and what they can't have? Whether they're doing a showpiece for themselves or whether they're doing a service to Wilmington. So I think that, controlling the cost here is a big issue and a big criteria, and that'd be the only other thing that we have all kinds of slides we could have put in.
Yeah.
We whittled them down to the ones we thought were important. So I think we did it.
Very good presentation. Okay, well, does anybody have anything else before we go? I'd like to let Hill go.
No, thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you, everybody,
Take
and
care.
see you
Thank
in
you all.
town.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
All right, so our next firm comes on at 8 o'clock. So if you want to take a quick moment to get yourself straight, I have to run out for a second.
Okay.
Okay, so 8 o'clock start for second presentation, correct? Okay. We only have one waiting so far. So.
Is there another one in there?
Sorry, I just I muted a couple people just because there was some feedback in the background, just to let everybody know.
All right, we got a couple of minutes left. I just want to ask everybody, were they pretty comfortable with that format of questioning that we had?
Yes.
Okay.
That went pretty good as to the time. I couldn't believe it, like came right down to the,
Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah, there was not a lot of downtime, so there was a lot of information passed, so
Yeah.
I thought that went well.
Hopefully they think we asked them some good questions too.
Well, I think so. I think, like I said, we had our due diligence there. We went through, I mean, some of us have been here before, Diane, you know?
All right.
Yeah.
and some of us haven't at all.
It doesn't show, though.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 7:59. So one more minute, I'll let them in right at 8. That work?
Okay, yeah. And for these questions, everybody, as we get a couple more members that'll come back, I know Mike's not here and Jack Holloway's not here. They'll take a couple of these questions back, so that we'll have to discuss when they show up at our next meeting.
Okay, I'm gonna let them in now. Okay, they'll be joining in a sec.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hello.
My name is George Hooper. I'm the chairman of the Senior Center Building Committee. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As a part of this tonight, we have you scheduled from 8 o'clock to 9:15. In the very beginning, we'll let you have an introduction so you can introduce your staff that's with you tonight. You can do a presentation, and then we will go into a series of questions.
Great.
So I'll let you start first with the presentation, with the introduction.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. If it's okay, I'd like to just share my screen real quick and we can try a real brief presentation. Let's get that on here. Can everybody see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Great. Well, thank you again for allowing us to come here and present our team, our approach, and our experience in this very, very exciting project. We're very excited to be here tonight. We are Collier's project leaders. We've assembled a team of highly qualified staff that have done this project type several times before and think that this is the right fit for this project. Myself, I'm Ken Guyette. I'm Senior Director of Project Management for Collier's Project Leader. I'm joined tonight by Phil Palumbo, who is one of our senior project managers, as well as Adam D'Alessio, who's one of our construction project managers. This is basically your core team. In addition to the people that you see here, we're supported by Tao Nguyen, who is our financial analyst. Obviously, Joe Naughton is our managing director, who manages the entire Northeast region out of our Boston office. In addition, we have about 120 different personnel, project managers, architects, former contractors, commissioning service providers, et cetera, that are a part of our staff that are available at a moment's notice to come and help us on our project as needed, and we're able to leverage them at a moment's notice. Some of our similar experience, as you can see here, we have extensive experience. We've got about $7 billion under management. This map that you see here before you are our public Massachusetts Commonwealth projects, and you can see by the yellow dots, those are all our projects. The two red indicators are our two offices, one in Agawam and one in Boston, as well as your location noted in blue. The list that we have here below is the senior centers that we've done, our recent senior center experience, and as you can see, a very extensive list of projects that we have on our project file. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Phil and Adam, who will do the lion's share of this presentation. They are again, your core team. Phil, Adam, why don't you go ahead?
Great, thanks, Ken. So for past applicable project experience, the upper left of the slide is the Hadley Senior Center project in Hadley, Mass. We were hired as OPMs from designer selection through project closeout. That building size is 10,350 square feet with a total project budget of $7.1 million. Unique aspect of that project was at the same time as the Senior Center project, that town was also going through a public library project at the other end of the same property. So during design, we had to team up with that project design team, separate OPM, separate architects, separate engineers, et cetera, to develop a unified site design. We had to go through the planning board site plan approval process with them, and ultimately during construction had to make sure the contractors were playing nice in the sandbox. Upper right of the slide is the Dover Community Center project in Dover, Mass. Again, hired as the OPMs from designer selection, currently in the feasibility study phase. That project is estimated to be around an 18,000 square foot building and estimated to be a total project budget of $13 million. We were charged to go through designer selection, feasibility study, and then schematic design through the winter so that the design results and estimate results are presented to the Dover taxpayers at spring town meeting of next year to see if that project's going to move forward. Lower left of the slide is the South Hadley Senior Center project in South Hadley, Mass. Again, hired from as OPM from designer selection, and we're currently a third of the way through construction. That building is 16,150 square feet with a total project budget of $11.4 million. The scenario with that project was the town wanted their council on aging to stay at that property. So right before we started construction, we moved them out into a local church where they leased space during construction. Once we got them out, we abated and knocked down their old building and would round up new construction for the new facility.
All right, and on the lower left, we have Longmeadow New Adult Center located in Longmeadow, Mass. This is a ground-up build designed by Catlin Architects. It's a 26,333 square foot building. Construction budget or a full project budget of $14 million. This project was built in the center of Greenwood Park in Longmeadow, which has an existing daycare school, the existing senior center, a park for the kids. They have camps there. They have pools. So there was a lot of logistics going into this project as far as setting up to make sure that while all these other entities can still function, we can build this building in the center of this park here. This project is under construction. It's nearing actually completion later this fall, early winter to be completed and furniture moving in. So they're excited to get this project completed and hopefully get to use it at some point.
So for project understanding, we recognize our first big task will guide the team through the designer selection process to make sure we get the most competent, most appropriate design team for this project. The next big task after that we recognize is that site selection task will help develop the evaluation criteria for that selection to ensure that selection is done in the most objective manner. So some criteria might be lot size, location convenience of the site, constructability of the site, so on and so on. We recognize the idea as we would go through designer selection, feasibility study, and schematic design. We understand the existing building is around 8,300 square feet, and it sounds like the elderly service department needs somewhere around 14,000 square feet. We understand they have a need for a more efficient, more appropriate floor plan layout and some more on-site parking. So being a publicly funded project, we recognize the massive importance to community outreach. For obvious reasons, as a project team, it's important that we provide updates to taxpayers, but another obvious reason is we want to provide them with an opportunity to speak to us, provide us with comments, concerns, questions, so that their voices are heard. The images on the slide here are some images of examples of how we're going through this process on the Dover Community Center project. So the upper image with the faces, that's an image of a Zoom public forum we conducted a couple weeks ago. So at that public forum, I presented the project budget update, project schedule update, and then I handed it over to the architects who got into their building programming update. And during that forum, we conducted a live Zoom poll where we asked 4 to 5 questions, relative to spaces they want to see in the new building, activities they'd hope to participate in the new building and on the new site. So it was a great way for these community members to get their voices heard, but also in real time, they could see what other community members were feeling about those questions. The images at the lower left, at the bottom of the slide, any community members that didn't have time to attend that public forum, we issued an online survey with the same questions, and those images were the results of that survey. So again, it's massively important for a project team to provide updates to taxpayers, but it's also very important for a project team to be on record, giving those taxpayers the opportunity to speak to us, provide us their input on the project. And one other strategy we like to take during community outreach is utilizing our marketing department. So any help we can provide the owner with social media content, project website content, anything we can do to help shed a positive light on the project to the taxpayers, we'll do whatever it takes.
Thanks, Phil. So I'm going to walk you through the design phase and construction phase and what our role as an OPM is going to be. So starting with the design phase and all the way through construction, we tend to focus on three major components: cost, quality, and schedule. It's our job as the owner's rep to track the finances from the start of the design all the way through the construction and closeout. We'll develop a budget for you based off the funds that are available for this project. And once approved by the committee, it's our responsibility to be sure that the architect is fully aware of the construction budget and that they understand that they must design to that number. And some of the ways that we tend to do that is work with two independent cost estimators. One is the owners on the owner side, and the other is on the architect side that they'll bring in. A cost estimate will be done at three different phases: the schematic design, design development, and 90% construction phase. In each one of these phases, we'll work with the cost estimators and the design team to be sure that the design is on budget and remains on budget, all with still maintaining that high quality that we're expecting. Our tracking of the budget continues all the way through construction by reviewing contracts, invoices, payment applications, all for accuracy. We work to anticipate any potential cost exposures by utilizing our contingency log, where we track contingency funds to provide monthly financial reports back to you folks to keep you all up to date what's going on financially. And also, quality is extremely important to us. During design, we're going to perform design reviews during each phase to ensure that the drawings are as accurate done as they can be. We'll look at the best bid strategies for this project, whether it's a design bid build or CM at risk, and we'll be able to walk you through those options. During construction, we'll be on site reviewing the ongoing construction progress and quality of the work. We want to ensure that you are getting the product that you paid for, and that's of the highest quality. We provide weekly reports back to the contractor and to the architect on discrepancies that we find by being on the field, boots on the ground, looking at the construction as it's going up, and make sure that they are addressed on a weekly, regular basis. A major reason that we do this is not only to ensure that the quality is being achieved in this project, it prevents a lengthy punch list at the end of the project and ultimately saves time and money. We'll start developing a milestone schedule as soon as we are hopefully brought on board for this project. We'll lay out what we feel each piece and when it needs to happen, from architect selection to building committee meetings to when each phase of design needs to be completed and finally going out to bid. And during construction, the contractor develops that construction schedule. But it's our job to make sure that they stay on schedule, and we do that at our weekly job meetings. We'll make sure that we are up to date on look aheads for what's coming up over the next couple of weeks, and make sure we can go back and look at that schedule and make sure they're hitting all their dates. And if they're not hitting their dates, it's our job to go back to that contractor and have them come up with a recovery schedule to make sure that they can make up that time. So we move on to FF&E and closeout. FF&E is fixtures, furniture, and equipment. The budget was created for this at the very beginning at the project as well. We again work with the design team so they understand the needs of this building, and again ensure we are maintaining our budget. We also oversee the procurement and the move schedule for all the furniture, that it's delivered on time and that the contractor is fully aware of that schedule. So we make sure that they hit their date, so we can make sure that we hit ours. During the closeout phase, which I think is one of the most important phases, we oversee the punch list to be sure it's getting completed to the owner's satisfaction and also in a very timely manner. We don't want the contractor hanging around and not getting this project closed out. We want to turn this building over to you as soon as we can and keep it on schedule. We ensure that all the staff is fully trained and is comfortable using all the equipment. So we'll work with the contractor and the design team to make sure that's up front in the specifications, to make sure that we capture all those training sessions, to make sure that the contractor owns those, and we make sure we capture those at the end of the project, such as HVAC, lighting, projectors, audio visual, the security system. We want to make sure that you are all fully trained on that. And finally, we want to make sure that all the equipment manuals, the warranties, the ad-builds, those are all turned over to the owner before the project is fully closed out. So I know that was a lot of information and pretty quick, but I'm going to turn this back over to Ken. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. And so thank you very much for your time. That's the extent of our presentation. Essentially, I'd just like to leave this up there in the Q&A on why Colliers. Again, this is all we do is owners representation services. This is all we've ever done over the last 20+ years. We have proven savings, typically costing, we're at net zero cost on all of our projects. So again, we're very excited about this project, and thank you for your time for questions and answers.
All right, great. Thank you very much for that presentation, guys. I'll lead off. We do have a series of questions here that each one of our committee members is going to ask. Phil, you started talking about the public outreach. You touched upon it. Can you give us some examples of what your experience is in getting out there and trying to garner support for this project? You know, sometimes it's popular, sometimes it's not. So can you tell us a little bit about what your experiences are with it?
Sure. So the images I provided were on the Dover Community Center project, but so for example, on the Hadley Senior Center project, South Hadley Senior Center project, a couple times during design. So when the design team has that initial design material that we could present to the public, we would conduct a public presentation. It'll be at that initial one where we're showing, you know, a rough idea of what that building might look like that site might look like. And that's that initial opportunity for community to provide us with feedback. And then the idea is we kind of continue on through design, maybe get a little bit through the middle phase of design development, and then provide that second public presentation. And ultimately, you know, at every presentation, you know, we explain to folks, there's a project budget we got to maintain. So as much as, you know, we want to get everything in there that, you know, taxpayers want to see in this building, ultimately there's a budget we got to maintain. We'll be going through the estimate process, like Adam mentioned, during design to make sure we're maintaining that budget. But the idea is providing those public forums, those public presentations. Nowadays with COVID, like we showed you, we've been doing them via Zoom. But ultimately just being on record, providing that opportunity to taxpayers to speak to us, and being on record, providing those updates to them. And you had mentioned, you know, there are projects where there are naysayers, and there are, and we had naysayers on the Hadley project, and ultimately you speak to the truth of the project, and you know, it goes where it goes, but ultimately you stay true to the building committee you're working for, and you continue to move forward.
A key thing is getting some of the information out there. Do you utilize, I mean, like our town websites? Do you incorporate any of your information? Do you do a lot with social media? Do you tweet? Do you get a lot of it out there? I know a lot of our seniors don't, but quite a few of them do. So there'll be a lot of interest in that, and some won't go out to these meetings. So
sure. So everything we put out there to, you know, say for a building committee presentation, whether it be a project budget update, project schedule update, you know, from us, that's going to be public info. So we're going to get it over to the building committee chair. We're going to present that at the building committee meeting. And generally speaking, every project we work on, that information is then posted to that town website, that city website. Or if there's a project specific website the town has in place, it'll be posted there. And whenever there's a scenario where the client says to us, listen, can we pretty up this information package? Can we tweak this? Can we show this? We don't have enough of this. Whatever it takes to, again, shed that positive light. And the same goes for the design team. So they're going to, once we get a design team on board, they're going to come to these building committee meetings with their material. That's going to end up being public info. We'll make sure that gets posted on the town website again, or social media. And like I mentioned, you know, so we have an in-house marketing department where, you know, these people went to college for this. So they're a lot better than we are in terms of content on social media and whatnot. But we'll grab them and make sure they provide time with the town to to pretty up whatever we got to do in terms of how we market this project.
All right.
George, if I may,
Yes, go
I
ahead.
just wanted to add to that real quickly. So a couple of things that I wanted to just key in on what Phil had said and expand on it a little bit. So one of the strategies that we like to employ when we're talking about community outreach is what we call the law of thirds. So we understand that, you know, in most scenarios, there's going to be a third of the constituency that loves the project and will vote for it no matter what, a third that will not and will not vote for it no matter what. And then there's that third in the middle, that undecided in the middle. That's the key demographic that we have to key in on and really make sure that we are actively pursuing them and giving them the good story of what this project's going to be. And we've been very, very successful in doing that, ranging from project like Phil had talked about with Hadley Senior Center, all the way to Cape Cod Tech, which had 12 different districts in that towns in that district that we had to go out and get the vote on. And it was a Herculean effort, but that again, we just made sure that we were looking at that third that were the undecideds and really targeted them. In addition to the social media aspect, Phil mentioned our marketing department. Not only are they helping us with presentation materials, but they're also actively monitoring social media to make sure if they see something get out there on Facebook that's negative about the project, that we're actively responding to that and making sure that we're, again, getting that good story back out there on the street to everybody and countering any sort of negative publicity that may be out there for the project.
All right, great. Next will be Teresa Manganelli. Teresa?
Yes, good evening. My name is Teresa Manganelli. I am the Vice Chair of the Finance Committee and have most recently served on the Facilities Master Plan. My question tonight is, as an OPM, which criteria do you feel are the most important in the selection of an OPM for our project in Wilmington?
Yes, I can let Phil and Adam chime in after. My opinion, it's somebody that has the experience of actually working as an OPM, solely as an OPM, looking out for the owner's best interest. There's OPMs that are out there that are contractors acting as OPMs or architects are acting as OPMs. We have to be your eyes and ears. We have to be your advocates of this project. We have to be the ones that are facilitating this project on your behalf. We're the experts on construction, on design, and we're the ones that are experts on, Massachusetts procurement law, et cetera. We've got to be the ones that are out there as your advocates, acting as your technical support, your technical extension of your team to make sure that this project gets done on time, on budget, and with the quality that you're expecting.
Yeah, the one thing I would add to that is, there's OPM firms that kind of, focus on MSBA projects, Mass School Building Authority projects. And then there's OPMs like us that we do that, but we do local municipal projects, senior center projects, community center projects. Those projects, although they're both publicly funded, they're different beasts. All day long, they're different. So I'd recommend that, besides everything Ken said, an OPM firm that has this experience with this kind of smaller scale municipal project, where you don't have a big brother, an MSBA to kind of, let the owner know you're going to follow this prescriptive method. You're going to look to us, solely us, to make sure we guide you to success. And we have that experience. So I would say that's a big deal in terms of, how you view OPMs for this project.
Yeah, and I'd also say on my end as being, an individual that will be, in this project on a daily basis is open communication. We want to keep those open lines throughout the entire project. And we want to make sure that the building committee is up to date, as things change. And that's why we make sure that we give you all our financials on a weekly basis, our construction reports on a weekly basis. And we make sure that we set up these monthly meetings so that way we can talk through all these situations that are happening and, just keeping everybody abreast of what's coming down the road. Is extremely important, at least to me, to make sure that we keep those open lines. I want you to feel comfortable that you can pick up the phone at any time, shoot me an email, and I'll be there to respond to you.
Thank you very much.
Greg Bendel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, good evening to you. My name is Greg Bendel. I'm very proud to serve on the Wilmington Board of Selectmen, and I have the good fortune of joining my friends here on this committee this evening. So I have been very impressed with your presentation, so thank you to all of you. My question is, Adam just had a great lead in. Adam, your last point was well taken, so thank you.
Thank you.
You mentioned at the beginning you had roughly 120 members of your team. And so my question tonight would be, who specifically will be, contacting our committee and also the members of our community?
Yeah, so what you see here are the 3 core teams. So it'll be Phil will be your guy. He will be your guy from the time of inception to the time of completion. I will be in and out as general oversight. Adam obviously will be in during design phase as well as construction, heavier in construction, obviously. But the 3 that you see here are going to be your team from the beginning of the project to the end.
Great, thank you very much. And I just wanted to add that we're very pleased to see, to hear about your monthly reports to these monthly meetings. I think residents would really appreciate that, as well as members of the committee.
Yeah, that's a very important aspect. No, I agree with that.
Adam, to that point, why don't you talk a little bit about Colliers 360, because we didn't have a chance to mention that during the presentation.
Yeah, so thank you. So Colliers 360 is relatively new to Colliers. It's an online module that we have where we can share financial documents. It's a web-based program that you'll get a dashboard link that at any moment and any time you can see where this project stands financially. So although we're going to provide, financial reports on a weekly, monthly basis, or whatever you guys need, this dashboard will give you a really high level that if you just need a quick answer to where we are financially, the budget, contingency, we'll get a quick snapshot of that we'll be able to provide a link for, because we enter all our financials into this 360, and it keeps it up to date, and it's a great tool for every project at this point to have, and going forward, just having this newer technology for any project is definitely an asset.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, our next question goes to Paul Millerani.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Congratulations on making our short list and putting together a great submission for our RFQ.
Thank you.
My name is Paul Millerani. I've served on the Permanent Building Committee in town for 25 years. Been through a master planning update, a facilities master plan, a new middle school, a new high school, a new police and fire station, public safety building. So I've been through the ringer on this. Tell us why your firm is best suited to serve as the OPM for the town of Wilmington. And part 2 of that is describe what experience your firm can provide the town of Wilmington into the next phase of this project.
Sure. Phil, you want to take that one?
Sure. Well, I think it goes back to my initial comment of, an OPM firm that has the applicable project experience to this project. So we've done senior centers, elderly service center facilities. So I think that's a key aspect to why we're most qualified. And in terms of, next steps, moving the project forward, when I mentioned project understanding and highlighting that big step of designer selection, we want to make sure that design team we select is a design team that has done these smaller scale municipal projects, is experienced in that community outreach at that level of understanding what people are going to expect to see in this elderly service facility. Doing those user interviews with the Council on Aging, Elderly Service Department, to really understand how this building needs to function. So that designer selection process is the first big one. And then that site selection, we want to make sure the site selection makes sense to the town. We want to make sure the users that are going to use it feel like it's conveniently located. A big thing with elderly service facilities is that kind of drop off, pick up scenario. So is this site that we pick going to have that grading that suits that, accessibility part of it? So again, I kind of go back to this, applicable project experience. I think it's key.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Teresa?
Yes, thank you. Please describe some of the more common and some of the more serious mistakes that occur in the planning process. And please explain the procedures or the approach that your firm has in place to eliminate these issues.
Yeah, so I'll say one that I know of right off the top of my head, and then Phil and Adam by all means jump in. The first one is other projects that we've seen that have had issues are projects that tend to use the budget as a suggestion rather than gospel, and they don't do an applicable estimate reconciliation at each phase and make sure that they're on budget prior to moving into that next phase. They just continually kick the can down the road till they get out to bid, and then lo and behold, they come in over budget. and they have to do a massive value engineering exercise to try to get it back under budget, often cutting program, which is vital to the project. That becomes a huge, huge dilemma. So there's been, you know, over the last 25 years that we've been in business, there's a lot of scar tissue that we've been able to garner over those years on how to best look out and be proactive on issues to mitigate any sort of risk. And this is, again, one of those. Phil talked a little bit about how we do these estimates at each phase, how we reconcile the two estimates together, and how we have that conversation then on where we're at with budget, making sure that we've got either value engineering, value management, add alternates identified. So as we move into the next phase, we're on budget. When we get to bid day, we have cost certainty that we know we're going to have a project that's going to come in at or under budget. And then we have alternates to be able to add to that project if we're lucky enough to catch the bid at a time in the market where we can really get some savings and we can put some more stuff back into the project. So we want to make sure that key program requirements of the building that are maintained are sacrosanct for the entirety of the project and the entirety of the design phase.
Yeah, another aspect I would highlight is that kind of community outreach process, because ultimately this project's going to move forward if we get taxpayer approval, right? So we got to make sure the community feels good about this project, right? And we got to make sure they recognize what they're getting for their dollar, and we got to, you know, present that topic such that it's worth the project. It's worth them going through this project and the value it's going to bring to the town. That's a massive step. So you can't, on these projects that are kind of these smaller scale projects where, you know, you might have taxpayers that might say, well, do we really need that? It plays a big role.
And one point I would make is getting back to Phil was talking about site selection. I think site selection is a huge proponent of this. We've been on jobs where a site has already been selected and we come into the project and they haven't done the proper borings to see if the soil conditions are correct. They haven't done the correct hazmat investigation. Are there wetlands involved in this site? So that would be a huge part of the site selection, to make sure that we go in and we make sure that we're doing the proper testing that needs to be done. Or else you're going to spend a lot of money up front trying to mitigate a lot of these situations that could have been avoided by doing the proper testing.
Thank you.
All right, our next question goes to Terry Marciello.
Hi, I'm Terry Marciello. Welcome. Very impressed with your speech here. I'm actually the director of elderly services, and I'm very interested in everything that you're saying. I've been here for 22 years, and I'm so happy that we're taking this next step. The question I have for you, if you could describe the reason for change orders and how your firm will work to limit those change orders.
Yeah, so again, I'll start off and then the team can chime in. So one of the things that we make sure we do, again, at each phase of the design, Adam talked a little bit about this, is design reviews. So with that 120 staff members that we have that are former architects, mechanical engineers, et cetera, is extremely important, and it's an extremely good value that we have by having that resource in-house, that we can do a very thorough design review at each phase. What ends up happening is our comments on that design review are noted in a design review log as each item, and the design team has to respond to each item before we're allowed to move on to the next phase of design. So they have to hit every single one of those items that we've talked about and make sure that they're reconciled before we move on. So at the end of the day, we've got a much more robust set of documents, a much cleaner set of documents prior to that going on the street. That helps mitigate change orders. That process alone helps mitigate a ton of change orders. Then once we're in construction, obviously the change orders are still going to happen. And unfortunately, it's just a fact of life. We've just got to mitigate it. But with the team that you have here, there's a tremendous amount of experience, and every single change order has to be vetted. We want to be firm but fair, but every single change order gets vetted. We look at the hourly rates, we look at the amount of labor they're proposing, we'll make sure that it's not scope that we've already bought, make sure there's not credits that are already due to the owner. We do a very thorough vetting to ensure that the document is firm but fair. And then we would present it to the committee if in fact we did find out that it's fair. A lot of times it is a back and forth process with the contractor. several back and forth processes at times because they'll try to, again, put stuff in front of us that's just not justifiable. But that's one of the ways that we can help minimize that as well.
Yeah, to Ken's point, that's where, sorry, Phil.
I'll just give it a quick example. So South Hadley Senior Center project, I talked about how we abated the existing building and then knocked it down. So during abatement, there was some unforeseen asbestos. So, you know, you do your best you can to locate all the existing asbestos as you're verifying existing conditions. So during abatement, there was unforeseen asbestos discovered. And we had this general contractor and his hazmat sub present to us a $90,000 proposal change order. So we teamed up with our hazmat consultant, Fuss & O'Neill. We reviewed the proposal change order, and like Ken mentioned, you do the dance, you do the negotiation. Ultimately, we knew what it was going to take, and we knew it wasn't going to be a $90,000 scope. So we directed them to perform the work on time and material. And ultimately, that change order came in at $40,000. So we saved that town $50,000. So there's nothing we hate more than a proposal change order that is kind of like a joke, you know, them not providing us the backup, them providing us with a value that is just absurd. It's like a slap in our face. So you'll never, ever, ever, you know, get a recommendation from us to approve a unfair and unreasonable proposal change order.
Yeah, and to both Phil and Ken's points, what I was going to say is just that's where the experience comes into play. You know, we can go back and we've been through this so many times that we understand how long it takes to do that abatement. We can bring in consultants that will have that experience. We're not just passing these through because we don't understand it. We know how long, how many man hours it's going to take to run some new conduit, to put some blocking in, you know, whatever the case may be, we understand it. And that's why when we look at these change orders and we go through them in detail, we look at how many man hours, what the material cost is, what the materials are. If it doesn't make sense to me, it gets pushed back. So our experience that we have just from previous projects, you know, carries on from project to project.
Thank you.
All right, our next question is from Greg Bundle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, my second question for you is, could you please describe a difficult situation you had on a project and how you resolved the issues to move forward on the project?
Yeah, so I can provide one. I'm sure the guys can provide many, many more as well. We've all had, again, a lot of that scar tissue. And one of the things that we've been able to do is learn from previous issues that have come up on site. So the one that I'm going to reference happens to be North Adams, the Cold Grove Elementary School project, which was a fairly large $30 million, basically a full gut of a 1911 building. So an old historic building that was totally gutted and renovated. Contractor was inexperienced with the MSBA. We knew that going in. They were a low bid contractor. They were from Connecticut. So we knew that that was going to be an issue for them, just logistically working in North Adams. And so we made sure that in our contract that we had specific language regarding maintaining schedules. And it was not just the standard AIA document language, it was very robust language. And we were able to leverage that and use that when the challenges came with schedule and maintaining schedule and recovery schedules and what the contract was obligated to do to make sure that the project stayed on schedule. So that was a critical factor for us to be able to have that document, to be able to reference that back and basically put that back, the onus back on the contractor to turn things around and get the project back on schedule. And ultimately we were successful in doing that.
Yeah, my scenario would be actually that unforeseen asbestos issue at South Hadley Senior Center. I kind of talked about it like it was, I don't know, it went like a slam dunk, but that was a brutal back and forth. So, you know, but you stay professional and you just stay your ground and kind of firm but fair, and you kind of get through it. But that was a heavy one.
Okay, thank you, guys. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And that leads us back to Terry Marciello, our Senior Director.
Hi, so the next question I have for you, obviously in our current situation with the pandemic, we've really kind of looked at our buildings, more of our public building as not only the indoors, but of course, because of the situation, outdoor space. And we've really been serious about looking at it a little more closely. how would you incorporate these considerations in design and function to our building to ensure the ability to use the space?
Yeah, so that's a great question. It's something that we've been dealing with for the last 6 or 8 months now. We've actually been on the cutting edge in a variety of different ways. One is with our healthcare group. They actually are part of the HAO Association, which has to do with infectious control, and they've been very, very forthcoming on pushing boundaries on how we can best bulk up our buildings and basically bolster our buildings to ensure that there's less of an issue when it comes to our buildings and our building systems, and how we can help ensure that there's less of a transmission in the building. We've been able to leverage them and the healthcare group on a variety of different manners. One of which is we actually even earlier this year did a K-12 superintendent roundtable with all the superintendents from the Commonwealth to talk to them about 9 key elements that we wanted to talk about when it comes to getting the kids, the children, and the staff and faculty back to school and what that means. And it was extremely beneficial to the superintendents. It was extremely timely, considering that they were thinking about how they were going to get kids and faculty and staff back to school. We also have our commissioning services side of the Colliers project leaders team, and they have extensive experience on mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems, on how we can utilize UVC in HVAC to sterilize return air, how we can use positive and negative pressures in rooms to help with the flow of the air, to help not have stagnant infection-laden air sticking around the rooms, et cetera. So they've been a huge asset to us as well. Again, a group that we leverage often, and it's something that, quite honestly, we've been talking to a lot of design teams about because it is an issue. It is going to come up. It is something that is not going to go away. It's going to have to be looked at in buildings because communities are going to want certain aspects bolstered in their buildings. And we've been able to be very successful in being on the cutting edge of that.
Yeah, one thing I would add, Terry, is, so that's a design-related kind of criteria to the project. So ultimately what we would do is all kind of objectives, project objectives like that, we would make sure we would have in the designer request for qualifications. We want to make sure design teams that are, proposing on this project has that experience we're asking them to have. So I want Mr. Architect to have a landscape architect that has experience in kind of that outdoor design that, meets that criteria and so on. In South Hadley Senior Center project, so we're in construction right now, but, we went out to bid prior to COVID. So we actually just had a meeting with the Director on Council on Aging, with the architect, to talk about what design changes should we make relative to COVID. So, we're going to add the kind of plexiglass barriers that you see all the time. We looked at door hardware. We might be adjusting some door hardware on some doors to try to go as touchless as possible. Plumbing fixtures, touchless plumbing fixtures, et cetera, et cetera. So like Ken mentioned, it's not going away. It's, in terms of design, it's on the forefront of all OPMs and designers now. So 100% that we're going to make that part of that designer RFQ.
Thank you.
All right, Diane Allen, next question.
Good evening, gentlemen. An excellent presentation so far. Really enjoyed all your comments that you've made so far. My question to you, I'm on the Permanent Building Committee. I've lived in this town for 53 years, and I'm very, very happy about taking on this new project. As you stated, in your presentation tonight, this is going to be an important decision for a site selection, and especially for this, as we're doing this new senior center. How would you evaluate site selection criteria and help us reach a consensus as to the best location for the new senior center in our town?
Yeah, so I'll start that off. So one of the things that we've been very successful in doing, and it works either when you're remote or when you're all together, is getting consensus with building committees regarding any sort of items that require a lot of criteria or a lot of different options. So whether it's site selection or an alternate option for the different types of buildings, one of the things that we've been able to do in the past has been very successful. Specifically with one project in Harwich, Cape Cod, which was the Cape Cod Technical High School. Again, that same project that had 12 communities that were part of that district, 24 building committee members. So you can imagine trying to get consensus on a building committee that's got 24 members. It's extremely difficult. We had a series of options that we needed to basically rank to come up with a preferred option, similar to what we would do for a site selection. So what we did is we had a series of meetings where we established criteria. We have a series of criteria that we know that we've been using in the past. Phil's mentioned some of them. There's obviously more. We weighted that criteria. And then what we did is we actually did a similar to a Zoom presentation, similar to a Zoom survey, is we did a SurveyMonkey survey that every committee member was able to do right from their laptop. And at the end of the meeting, by the end of the meeting, we had essentially a heat map that showed exactly which option was preferred based on the variations, color variations going from red to green. So it worked out extremely well. And from there, we're able to decide that's the option. It's something that's easily presentable to the community to show, hey, this is how we've done our due diligence. This is where we went with the site selection. You can see here all the criteria that we came up with, how we weighted that criteria based on feedback from the community, input from all the constituents. Here's where we came up with the criteria. Here are the different site options that we have available to us. And based on our review with the committee, here's where we landed for our preferred option. Makes it a very, very seamless review with the constituents and very, very strong presentation.
Mm-hmm. So have you people had a chance to review our master facilities plan?
Yes.
Okay. I was also a member on that. And just to follow up on this question too, how do you go about with the criteria of evaluating, say, the utilities or the environmental issues with regard to site selection?
Yeah, so there's a series of due diligence tasks that we're going to have to do for each site in order to be able to establish a level playing field, essentially. One is going to be a phase 1 environmental assessment. Adam and Phil mentioned site borings for geotech analysis, wetlands, traffic studies. All those things have to be looked at. Now, there could be some that the town has already done, so we can get that information back from the town. There may be others that the town has not done. Those are some of those due diligence items that we're going to have to take care of initially right away. But that's typically separate from the designer selection, because we typically solicit those consultants on your behalf for the town and get those items rolling right away. And then those items inform the design. So that's why we try to get those done prior to the designer getting underway in full stride. So those are a few of the things that we would look at immediately coming out of the gate, in addition to the designer selection process.
Thank you, Ken.
You're welcome.
Diane, your last question?
Yep. I guess I get to ask the last question here. If you're chosen as the OPM for this project, how will you assist us in selecting the experience and criteria for what we're looking for in hiring the architect?
Phil, why don't you take that one? I know you got.
Sure. So typically what we like to do is create a designer selection subcommittee. So it'd be a subcommittee from the building committee. It just helps things move in an efficient manner, and just kind of go step by step on evaluation criteria that you guys feel is the most appropriate and needed criteria to get that design team that you think is going to be the best fit for the project. Right off the bat, I'm going to tell you right now, let's get an architectural team that has done a senior center, or has done multiple senior centers. It's a whole different design. It's not designing a town hall. It's not designing a bank. It's its own little design. So I highly recommend that kind of past applicable project experience. How many senior centers have you done in the past 5 years, et cetera. So we'll have those upfront designer selection subcommittee meetings where we create the criteria. We'll draft that RFQ. We'll have you all review that RFQ and vet it and make sure everything's good, T's crossed, I's dotted, and that'll be the blessing of the RFQ, and we'll go through that solicitation process with the town.
Great. Okay, thank you very much, Phil.
Yep.
All right, well, we still have some time here. I don't know if there's any questions that anybody had on the presentation, but I want to thank you, gentlemen, for a great presentation. It was very informative.
Thank you.
My last thing would be, you've heard a lot from us. I mean, this is a very important project here in town. Is there any issues that we haven't discussed that you feel as a firm with your experience that is important and something that we should be asking?
No, from what I've heard, this is the pretty standard questions that we typically get asked. Obviously, with the advent not only of COVID, but with social media, that plays a huge role in how people, constituents, get their information. So we like to identify again that group that's going to be the on the fence group, and really make sure that we've got a plan on how we're going to get that information out to everybody. How we're going to come up with that what we like to call the supermarket talk, where building committee members will know exactly what to say if they get approached in the building committee, to be able to get that good message out on the project and get the same consistent message out on the project. So that's really kind of the only thing. Everything else is kind of, for us, standard operating procedure on how we would typically go about a project of this nature.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, then I thank you for your time tonight.
I just have 2 questions, if I can.
Sure.
George. So one would be, when would the committee be looking to make a decision?
Well, we have, of course, you're not the only firm. We have another night scheduled for 2 other interviews.
Okay.
After that, we will be holding, we'll schedule a meeting and we will discuss all these answers and we will review.
Great. Great. And the only other question I was going to ask, which I typically ask at these, is when can we start? But you kind of answered that already, so.
All right.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Nice
Thank
meeting you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great
Stay
night.
safe.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe, that's right.
Thank you.
Okay, Tony.
Great.
All right. Well, I thought that went very well tonight.
Yep.
Is there any input that anybody wants to provide, or something that
It's going to be a tough choice. It's going to be a tough choice.
Well, I mean, I thought there were a lot of good firms. I mean, there were, as we went through in the beginning, I thought there were a couple of clear ones that we could kick out of the group. But I think from what I've been doing on reference checks, we picked 4 good ones.
Yep.
So, I mean, we're fortunate at this point. But again, some of us have been around here, so we've done this before. So we want to pick one that's going to benefit our community. So,
right.
You know, there's some key questions that were asked tonight, some that I thought were answered very well, and some that were kind of like skimmed over and were just pat answers that were given. So most of you probably got that. But we have a couple more to go through, and if they're as good as the firms that we've seen tonight, we might have a tough choice, but I think we should be able to go through pretty well with that. Was there any comments, like you said, any questions? Greg, anything you want to add?
I just want to remind you, I don't know if we have the ability, I think public comment is on the agenda. I don't think anybody's with us, but I certainly want to.
Yeah, no, that's going to be my next.
I'm sorry to step on your toes.
Yeah, no, that's all right. You know, once a chair, always a chair, I guess.
I think Jonathan's doing a great job. Very happy to hand it over.
All right, so next item on the agenda, public comment. Tony, I don't know if we have anybody out there.
We do not.
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
everybody
so-
that's, yeah, everybody that's on is here.
Okay. All right, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to
I'll make a-
adjourn.
Second that?
All in favor?
Aye.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, and have a good night, and we'll see you on Monday.
Got it.
Thank you, George.
George, is it 6 o'clock on Monday also?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
The first one will be 6:15 though, so since we already have the questions. We might have a couple of members that we have to give a couple of questions to, so we will
Okay.
discuss it then. Okay?
Great. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Good job.
Bye, everybody.
Nice job, George. Thank you.
See you guys.
Yeah.